They show up wearing pink, some of them holding signs. They line the streets cheering on a woman named Karen Reed. She's not a celebrity. She's not a war hero. She's a college professor accused of murdering a Boston police officer named John O'Keefe. John and Karen were a couple who were practically living together. But on the night of January 28th, going into the early morning hours of the 29th, they were out together. First at C.F. McCarthy's in downtown Canton, Massachusetts. Then at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. And finally, inside Karen's SUV in front of Brian Albert's house, who was having an after party with a bunch of folks who were at the waterfall. The big question is, what happened to John O'Keefe after he stepped out of Karen's car? Did Karen run him over, or was he killed by someone at the party? The jury, during her trial, couldn't figure it out, so a mistrial was declared. But now some jurors have come forward saying they actually agreed Karen did not murder John, but were stuck on the second count of manslaughter. So now everyone, including the supporters, were back at the courthouse trying to figure out what happens next in the Karen Reed murder case.
I'm Vinny Politan. We're back in Dedham, Massachusetts. Wow, here we go. John O'Keefe, former Boston police officer, someone killed him. Someone killed him, and here we are. Still, no one's been held responsible, right? No one has been held responsible. So for John O'Keefe and his family, this is worst case scenario for them. They don't get an answer. They don't get a sense of justice. They cannot turn the page on this. Things have been tough for that family to begin with, right? There's been a lot of tragedy in that family. But someone killed John O'Keefe, and it needs to be clear to everyone who was responsible. Now, we had a trial, right? We had a trial. Over the course of 3 months, 70 witnesses. You were watching it right here with all of us. I mean, there was a lot of evidence. There was a lot of information put in front of that jury. A lot of information. And when you have a case like that where really both sides are providing information for the jury, you would think at that point, okay, things would become much, much clearer. But for this jury, they weren't. Now, they were deadlocked, but some of the jurors have come forward and basically said that they had a partial verdict here, meaning they reached a verdict on 2 of the counts, but were deadlocked on a 3rd count. That's a partial verdict. Those are legal. We've covered many of them, not hundreds of them, but many of them here on Court TV, where a jury agrees maybe on some of the counts, but on other counts, they can't come to an agreement. And those verdicts are delivered. That didn't happen here. No verdict was delivered. The jury sent a note saying they were deadlocked, sent another note saying they're deadlocked, and then the judge got them out of the courtroom and it was over, like that. So the question is, if this jury did in fact reach a verdict on counts 1 and 3 and found Karen Reed not guilty of murder, not guilty of leaving the scene of the accident, and those charges are still pending against her despite there being an alleged agreement here, is this justice? And justice for John O'Keefe is the truth about who took his life. Justice for a criminal defendant in a courtroom is if 12 people agree you're not guilty, you can't be retried for that allegation. So that's what it was about in court today. And I was wondering, okay, this is post-trial. Have things calmed down? Have things simmered down in Dedham, Massachusetts? Well, the answer to that is no. Take a look.
directed this way.
This car was not hit by that car. Were you all trying to blame Lucky Loughran for it? Was that the plan? If they don't leave a brother and slow down in the snow and just say, oh, some guy in the snow, we're here to support her and seek justice for her freedom.
Even 5 years or more, we're going to be supporting Karen Reed. We believe she's innocent. We believe she's framed.
An internal investigation for their shoddy, corrupt work in the investigation of the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Any good police officer out there knows that if a call was made that a brother was down, they would have came running. Shame on the Canton Police Department to not call the surrounding towns to secure that scene. Shame, shame, shame.
To the side, please. Sir, get up there. You're in the way.
We support you, Karen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen, would you like to be back?
Gotta give us some room, ladies and gentlemen. Give us some room.
Things have not calmed down. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us live from outside that courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts tonight. Matt, great to see you. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't calmed down at all. Tell us a little bit more about the scene outside the courthouse today.
Vinny, nice to see you, and you've been here. You've seen it yourself, and this is one of those stories where we have to share with the viewer at home that it is almost completely different when you are wrapped up in the middle of it from what you're seeing on your screen. Because what we saw today was hundreds of people in front of the courthouse, across the street from the courthouse, and down the street from the courthouse. You had a large group, probably at least 200 people dressed in pink, holding the Support Karen Reed, Free Karen Reed signs. And then across on the other end of the courthouse, you could see the John O'Keefe family supporters there in blue, wearing his badge number. We did what we always do when we're at the courthouse, and we asked why they were here. Take a listen.
This is not normal. You normally do not tailgate a murder trial. It is not something that should be normalized. People should be able to let what happens in the courtroom make their decision, not a mob of people outside tailgating saying that they're having the time of their life. A man died. He's been forgotten in all of this. We're trying to refocus him.
Accept these verdicts from the jury and record them and let Karen, whatever she wants to do with the second count, do. But the 1 and 3 should be removed. Karen Reed did not kill John O'Keefe.
So today it was a motion to dismiss, but we're really back into the pretrial motion phase. So that's why, I think we just got used to that buffer zone being in place, Vinny, where the supporters of Karen Reed, or now the protesters, anti-Karen Reed protesters for that matter, would have to stay 200 feet away from the entrance of the courthouse, but there's no trial right now. There is no order, there is no jury deliberating, so they're back on the courthouse steps, and it really adds to the atmosphere here, and it's just fiery on the courthouse steps.
And they're close to each other. Obviously, there's no violence there, but a lot of passion. The number of folks showing up in blue seems to be growing. But obviously, the pink crowd still outnumbering by large numbers the number of folks who are wearing blue there. But you're right. This is different. This is different. And during the trial, they were able to move everyone away from the courthouse. But they're back there exercising their freedom, their First Amendment rights on both sides, and we celebrate that. Okay, take us from outside the courthouse to inside the courtroom. Who was there today?
So again, last night, the media had to line up chairs. There was only 10 media that could be in with a badge. Court TV was one of those 10. And it was almost like deja vu because we were here 1 month ago when that mistrial was declared and everybody was in their same spots. You had Karen Reed at her defense table, glued to the new member of her defense team. Behind her was her family that we saw in court each and every day, her dad, her brother, her mother. And then also on the other side, just a few feet away from her, in front of the media where we stand up at that riser, at that mini wall, is the O'Keefe family. And noticeably, you know, they were all here and they were waving to their supporters now that are out on the courthouse steps, and they were grateful that they were here for them.
Okay, I have a question. I don't know if you have the answer, but to me this doesn't make sense right now. There's no jury. The whole reason they're in this tiny courtroom was because the defense made a motion that they wanted all the jurors to be able to see the witnesses. There's no jury, there's no witnesses. Why don't they just go back to the large historic courtroom so members of the public can see this public case unfold? Was there any discussion of that?
There was no discussion of that and no official answer for you. But what I do know is, yeah, this was the exact same courtroom, the much smaller courtroom where the trial took place for 9 weeks. And we were imagining that, like, leading up to trial number 1, we would be in the much larger courtroom for all of the pre-trial motions or this motion to dismiss that was argued before Judge Beverly Canoni today. But in fact, we were in the smaller room. But that also kept any of the members of the public out as well, because again, we were back to the limited space and also the limited number of the members of the media.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. Unless there's a reason to not be in the larger courtroom. You've got a super high-profile case. You've got no jury. You've got a huge courtroom that was big enough to hold the mobs from the Sacco and Vanzetti trial years ago. You can go back in there so the public can see what is happening in a public courtroom in a public trial. Obviously, the cameras are in there, thank goodness, so the public can at least see it that way. But I'm really surprised. I'm surprised because Massachusetts, I know, is one of the good states when it comes to some level of transparency of the way the system works. So I'm just surprised by that. Okay, what arguments did we hear from the defense today?
Okay, so the defense went first, and then there was argument from Adam Lally. But for the defense, we had a new member of the defense team that was up there, and this is a seasoned veteran here in the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It was Martin Weinberg. He took the podium, the entire tiny room, got quiet, and everyone was fixated on what he had to say. This was part of his argument.
The second of the legal issues that I want to address, and they both together center on the double jeopardy clause, its unique history, and it's discouraging, if not deterring, if not prohibiting second trials when there's any rationale that would justify the verdict of the first trial, the first jury, or the continuation of the first jury's deliberations, is whether or not, now that we have evidence that the jury was not at an impasse, 4 jurors reached out to defense counsel. Jurors A, B, T, and E, I think is the way they've been described by Mr. Jackson, who received calls from 3 of the jurors, and Mr. Yannetti, who received a call from 1 juror and talked to somebody who himself or herself spoke to a 5th juror. We also have the corroboration, not just internally, where these 4 jurors are essentially saying the same thing. We reached a decision. We didn't denounce it. Some said we felt bad about it. We didn't know what to do. But they were internally consistent and not self-contradictory.
So what you couldn't see, because the camera was fixated on this defense attorney, is that Karen Reed moved her chair back and she positioned her body and she was staring at her defense attorney there, making the argument on her behalf. She was shaking her head at times, and then she would occasionally glance back over at Judge Canoni.
Okay, so I understand what the defense wants. I mean, that's clear. How about the prosecutor, right? How about the prosecutor? So the prosecutor has a little bit of a different role in our system of justice. They're not obligated to necessarily always go for a conviction in a case or a certain, their job is justice, whatever it is in the circumstance. Sometimes it is going for the most severe charge under all circumstances, but their ultimate obligation is the truth. So with that in mind, I was interested in how the prosecution would approach this issue. And what happened today?
Well, the Commonwealth wants her retrial. They also have already set a date for January 2025. It was Adam Lally that took the podium today in making arguments, a rebuttal case of sorts, saying that there was no verdict reached. There was no objection by the defense when there was a mistrial declared. And also the jury of 12, 6 men, 6 women, they had plenty of instruction. Take a listen.
This jury was instructed, not only instructed orally for a lengthy time, but was provided with written copies of those instructions that the court gave that stated on at least 9 or 10 different times exactly what the unanimous verdict was and how to come to that unanimous verdict and how to record that unanimous verdict. And there is no verdict that was returned stating anything in this case. And in particular, the 2 charges that the defendant now complains of dealt with simple choice. There was a box for guilty and a box for not guilty. Neither was checked, neither was returned to the court at any point in time. There is no verdict in this case.
No verdict, and he also said that it would be inappropriate to poll the jury then or even now under Massachusetts law.
And I understand the case law in Massachusetts. You know, sometimes things need to change. This makes our system look really bad that no one apparently, I don't know if it's no one, but we'll see how things turn out here. But the way the law is set up, it's like the law doesn't even want to know what went on there. They don't want to know. They don't want to. It's like someone not admitting a mistake. And the mistake, I'm not saying the mistake is the judge. It's the system. It's the way we communicate with jurors, the way we send them in there without clarity, and there's not a conversation with them. They don't know. A lot of lawyers don't know some of this stuff, for goodness sake. How the heck are 12 people going to know exactly what it means to be deadlocked? What does it even mean? Do they know going in? Do we ask them if they know what it means to be deadlocked? We just give them instructions. They had instructions. Maybe the instructions aren't so good. I'm sorry, Matt, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at our system of justice tonight. You know that. So what's going to go on here now with the judge's decision in all of this?
Okay, so the big headline after all of this argument today is that there is no decision just yet. Judge Beverly Cannoni is taking the arguments under advisement, will issue a written response at a later time. It was also very interesting, Vinny, to watch her in court today because she kind of leaned back. She must have some sort of relationship with this defense attorney that was arguing. She smiled at him quite a bit. She took a lot of notes to both sides, but she was very engaged.
Yeah, and what I understand is this lawyer has a great reputation, super smart. And I know my dad was a judge. My father loved when there were smart attorneys inside the courtroom. That's when I think he appreciated it, and he also, you know, you got to be on your A game. You got to be on your A game, and this guy knows the law, so it's a compelling argument. But I do think it's an uphill battle for the defense in all this. All right, how about the defendant, Karen Reed? I know you will often approach her at times outside of the courthouse. Did you get to speak to her today?
I did get to speak with her today. And you know what? This case is unlike any other for a number of reasons, including this defendant is not in custody. And sometimes she does speak to the media. So, of course, I'm going to be asking questions, which I did today when she left court. Take a listen. How have you been holding up since the mistrial?
Always strong, always. I will not be broken. They will not break me.
Your message for all the supporters out here.
Thank you as always. Thank you as always.
Thank you, as always, to her supporters, which was a growing number outside of the Dedham County Courthouse here earlier today. But then also, I thought it was really interesting how she worded that they will not break me and that I will continue fighting. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was very interesting, the verbiage here.
Absolutely. Matt Johnson, always in the middle of it. Thanks so much, Matt. Have a great weekend. When we come back, we'll bring in our Massachusetts insiders, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, George Torres was locked inside a suitcase pleading for his life while his girlfriend Sarah Boone taunted him while recording a video. She's now charged with murder and will be representing herself. What will that trial look like?
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
You know, the very serious double jeopardy issue is in the hands of a very experienced Superior Court judge. She will make the decision. We're hopeful she makes it in favor of precluding the re-prosecution of Ms. Reed. We believe strongly in the arguments that you heard made in court today.
Martin Weinberg, part of Karen Reed's defense team now. And he's talking about double jeopardy. And, you know, in this country, you can't be tried twice for the same crime. If 12 people find you not guilty, that's it. It's over. You go. The prosecution can't appeal that. It's over. It's done. You move on. And obviously, the defense is saying that's exactly what happened with counts 1 and 3, although the jury was apparently confused and didn't know how to communicate that to the court, that we're deadlocked on these charges on count 2, but we are in agreement on 1 and 3. That's the argument they're making. Let's take a listen again to the defense, then the prosecution in court today.
The prosecutor has strong evidence that, in fact, the jury was not on an impasse on counts 1 and 3. We don't want somebody who's found innocent wants to face the second trial for the very same offense. That's the wrong principle. It's the ground of double jeopardy, and this Reed was acquitted. Bring the juries and the judge here for that. Thank you. It's the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Certainly, the Commonwealth or anyone who wants to try someone who has been acquitted by a jury of their peers or retry them for the same offense. That's not what's happened. There was no verdict returned by this jury. Counsel had more than an adequate opportunity to address the court in relation to the declaration of this trial. And the court did absolutely nothing wrong in finding manifest necessity as the only alternative that could have been employed in that particular case. Polling the jury then, polling the jury now. It's simply not permitted by the rules, it's not appropriate, and therefore the defense motion should be denied.
All right, let's bring in our insiders. Joining me tonight, Karen Reed supporter, creator of the Justice for Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook page, Nick Rocco. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. And finally, the YouTuber behind Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin Lenahan, is with us. Great to see everyone. I'm going to start with Joseph Krowski Jr. You are the lawyer. You're the Massachusetts lawyer, okay? I understand that the law is going to be really tough here for the defense. Not an easy hill to climb. But if that's the case, doesn't this just make our system of justice look really bad? Like we've got blinders on, we don't want to know what the jury did? We just want to move on and we have no curiosity. And if there's a public perception that 12 people found someone not guilty, they're going to be tried again? Doesn't that make the system, doesn't that create more distrust in our system of justice?
No, not at all. I think you're a little bit off base on that tonight. Here's what happened. Attorneys for Karen Reed, at the time when the jury had reported they were deadlocked, requested a Tui Rodriguez charge. That's the Massachusetts version of a dynamite charge. After that, the jury foreperson sent out another communication that they still couldn't reach a verdict on the charges, and he said it in the plural. At that time, Judge Coney had no decision, no discretion other than to declare a mistrial. Importantly, counsel for the defendant didn't object to the declaration of mistrial. Why would you if your client
Wait. All right.
charge?
I got
Sure.
it. I just have one. I just have to finish this with you, Joseph. My point is like, isn't the purpose of everything to get the truth out? Like, there doesn't seem to be any curiosity by the system and the law in Massachusetts to get to the truth of this. Like, how on earth are 12 strangers going to understand even what deadlocked means? What is, like, do they know the difference between, do they know? Like, did we quiz them beforehand and say, listen, you can be deadlocked on one charge and reach a verdict on others? We don't say that to them. We don't give them enough information. That's on the system. That's a problem.
They've understood it for almost 300 years in Massachusetts until Alan Jackson came into town and tampered with the verdict slips. Isn't that the irony here? I see Nick shaking his head. I've tried too many murder cases to count. They all have lesser includeds, and I've never experienced a situation like this. Look, you had the foreperson of the jury. He was writing like he was Hemingway or Tolstoy. Obviously, he's an intelligent man. He wrote a letter. A communication. We can't reach a verdict on the charges. Here's what's important. I don't think the district attorney's office, if they know it's 12-0, they have a discretion to review that. But you have to protect the jurors that serve. And judges are loath, and the Massachusetts courts and the statutes are loath, once a jury is discharged, to bring them back.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. We didn't have that problem down in South Carolina.
Before this trial.
We didn't have that problem in South Carolina. After Murdoch, we brought the jury back.
No, but Vinny, you're missing the distinction. You bring them back if there's evidence there was extrinsic, extraneous, improper information that made its way into the deliberation. This is not that situation. There was no verdict in this case. It has to be filed with the clerk and recorded. Look, I understand the equity in this. I understand what Martin Weinberg is doing, but this is just north of impossible of a hill to climb. And I think Judge
I get it, but it makes
deny this.
It's not going to make the system look good. Nick Rocco, what are you thinking tonight?
Well, I mean, as far as what Joe said, I don't know as far as when you bring a jury back in. I know once they declare the mistrial, the case is over. But now you have these jury members speaking out. And specifically, one today talked to a local news reporter who reported this and said she spoke with other jurors who all said it's pretty simple. If the court wants the truth and they want us to tell them that it was a final verdict of not guilty for counts 1 and 3, they'll bring us back into court. If not, then they don't want the truth. And the number one job of the prosecutor is not to pinpoint who they want to, blame for this. It's to find the truth. And now voicemails and emails are giving Adam Lally the truth. He doesn't want to accept it, and he wants this motion denied, and he wants to try to go at Karen Reed on all 3 charges again, which I think we all can agree that they're never going to get her on murder 2. Leaving the scene, I don't think they're going to get her on that either. Their best chance, which, again, I believe she's innocent, but if the state wants to have a chance at Karen Reed, I think they would want to just go up for manslaughter. Like everybody's been saying, that's what she should have been charged with, just that alone. So I think Adam Lally's making a mistake by trying to bring these 3 charges forward.
Kevin, how do you see this tonight?
I think that, Vinny, you're making a very compelling point that maybe in the future there might be a way to do this that is a little more cleared in terms of instructions to the jury. I think it's a compelling point, but it's kind of, that ship has sailed on this particular trial. And I think there's a problem with trying to bring back the 12 jurors and ask them what they thought back then if they didn't vote on it, because they may have been influenced by what they're seeing now, or they may even be more. We've heard this from even a lot of the jurors that have spoken, whether to Alan Jackson or to reporters. They're very much afraid of this mob and what's going to happen in social media. So I don't know how effective that's going to be. And I just want to add something quick, because I try to give something positive when it comes through. The pink crowd today was united with the blue crowd on chanting justice for JJ. And that's a big change on their part. When I was there at the last hearing, they booed the O'Keefe family. So whoever is responsible for that, and I know Nick is always been consistent about calling for justice for JJ and having a moment of silence for his family. But I just want to say I appreciate that. So there's something we can all unite about that.
Yeah, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about that scene outside. Our guests, our insiders, are staying with us. But Kevin's right. What is seen outside? This case is different. I still think the big problem, though, is we've got to get the public to trust our system, and our system needs some common sense. And I don't know if putting blinders on makes us trust it more.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. We're here for this. We support the O'Keefe family.
Obviously to support Karen Reed, because everything that's happened to her is just wrong. But the corruption in Massachusetts, I'm 63 years old. The corruption in the state goes back decades and decades and decades.
We are here to support them and the witnesses. The O'Keefe family supports the witnesses. We support the witnesses as well.
It's always been about justice for Officer John O'Keefe, but you can't get that without freeing Karen Reed.
This is very interesting, the way the demonstrators have sort of given their message in this case. Because in a lot of cases, you know, there's two sides to a story. There's the prosecution, there's the defense, and usually both sides are yelling at each other. And many times a defendant will be going after the victim in a case. But this is different. It's not that way. It's just not that way. And today at the courthouse, you had the two sides that were there. But it's one side believes Karen Reed absolutely did it, no doubt. The other side is Karen Reed did not do it, absolutely no doubt. And both sides want some sense of justice for John O'Keefe. Unique situation. Our insiders still with us, Nick Rocco, Joseph Krasky Jr., Kevin Lenahan. All right, Nick, so where is the Free Karen Reed movement? Where would you say it is right now in terms of sheer numbers and level of commitment, et cetera, compared to, I don't know, a year before the trial?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot more supporters. I mean, it grows by the day. The Facebook group grows by about 500 people per day. And during the trial time, it was in the thousands per day, people joining this movement. In the way back beginning of this, actually about this time last year, I started the fundraising for Karen Reed. And throughout the whole movement now, more and more people are starting to fundraise and to help raise money for these defense attorneys that she needs, because it's not going to be cheap especially to do another trial. She just got through one, paid up for that. Now you gotta continue and pay for another one. You know, these obviously the lawyers are not cheap. So this movement, I would say it's unlike something I've never been a part of before. I mean, everybody just gets along. Everybody wants to help her, and everybody wants to support her, whether it's financially, making signs, or just being there for support. I think the numbers are only going to get bigger on the Karen Reed side. I definitely don't see them diminishing.
Yeah, and I think I saw online today a mom with her two little daughters, not back to school yet in Massachusetts, who were there dressed in pink. Kevin, the blue side, right, those numbers, not nearly what the pink is in terms of people who show up, but those numbers are getting larger and larger each time we're there.
Yeah, there was a very big turnout. I think those images you guys get there were a little bit earlier. They must have been, because I'm not in them, and I was there this time, and I had the blue shirt on and proud to support them. Yeah, and they were stretched up the street. So the numbers are there. These are not people that really want to be there. They initially have put their faith in the system for justice to work here. And because we had a mistrial, and because of the way the witnesses have been mercilessly hounded. It's hard to get a full sense of it here. Just how, I mean, I've had my threats myself, and I'm not even a witness. I mean, but what they have to live with daily there is just unbelievable. So it's been a process of people now starting to rally and stand up for truth and following evidence and logic. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I absolutely respect Nick's intelligence, and I know that he's a believer. He's not exploiting this in any way. But I just hope that people understand that there's a human thirst for conspiracy. It's juicy, it's titillating, and you really have to get in and dig logically to figure out timelines and possibilities and eliminate that, and have a high degree of self-awareness that all of us might have a thirst for something like that, like I did when I first started covering the case. But I just kept asking questions to get to what was possible and what was unlikely and what was impossible. And eventually I got there. So I just hope everybody has that understanding, that self-awareness about themselves.
Joseph, you know, oftentimes the public doesn't pay a lot of attention to what we do, right? You know, the court system. Court TV obviously tries to bring it to the nation, you know, by putting cameras in courtrooms so people can see how the system works. I'm curious about your thoughts about the public involvement here in this case. Do you see silver linings? Do you see it as a negative? How do you, as someone who's in the trenches day in and day out, see what has happened here with the Karen Read case?
I guess I wonder why now and why her. You know, there's a history in Massachusetts, like every state in this nation, where men, usually brown and black, have been wrongly convicted. There are cases in Massachusetts where police officers have actually been caught falsifying evidence, and none of those individuals in pink shirts even blinked an eye for any of them. But you've got a attractive suburban white female, and all of a sudden she's being held up as a role model. Look, I wish her no ill will, but one thing you're not talking about tonight, if you trust the information, the reliability of the information coming in from that jury, they were not guilty on counts 1 and 3, which means they believe she didn't intentionally hit him and didn't know she hit him. But 75% of those jurors, 9-3, believe that while she was drunk, she hit and killed John O'Keefe. So look, to each his own. I'm not going to teach someone parenting, but to bring your young kids to that, to hold them up. I mean, civic engagement is a terrific thing, but this is morphed into something else. The SUVs, the fake security guards with their black shirts, the pom-poms. I find it to be the silly season outside at this point.
Nick, do you see, at some point, I believe at some point, it may not be for a couple of years, I don't know, this case will be over in some sense. Do you see the people who were involved in the Karen Read case picking up other causes, other injustices that they believe are happening at the hands of the government, whether it's the prosecutors or local police or something like that? Do you see that as a possible outcome of the experience of the Free Karen Read movement?
Yeah, I think, you know, me being on this side, Kevin being on that side, and other people in this movement as well, I think have caught an interest to what's really actually happening in the state of Massachusetts. Now, I'm 29 years old, so I've never really been involved, like I said, with something like this. So this caught my attention. Now, to Joe's point of, you know, the Free Karen Read supporters don't bat an eye to somebody of color or someone who may not be attractive when they get wrongfully accused, but you don't have Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel Boston 24. None of these people are out there reporting it. So how are you going to hear about this stuff if nobody's there reporting it? Until you get somebody who's going to step up and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. And if people hear it and they catch an interest to it and they find an injustice, you're going to have blue people out there, purple people, green people, all different colors. But if we don't know about it, we can't stand up for it.
All right, big thank you, Nick Rocco, Kevin Lenahan, Joseph Krasky Jr., our insiders, giving us great insight tonight. We appreciate it. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, George Torres died inside a zipped-shut suitcase. He was with his girlfriend, Sarah Boone. How did George get inside that suitcase, and why didn't Sarah open it up?
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV. Next week.
Join us each morning to get trial ready for the day's proceedings. Plus, deeper dives into true crime stories with our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. What do we have? 7 suspects in court in Maricopa County, Arizona. 7 suspects from Gilbert, Arizona. Some folks refer to them as the Gilbert Goons, a group of young people who've been engaging in menacing behavior, now accused of murder. Ashley Holden from Scripps News Phoenix has the story tonight.
It was a packed courtroom on Thursday as all 7 suspects appeared, even the 3 that recently bonded out of custody. And after, Preston Lord's stepmom taking questions for the first time.
We continue to live this nightmare and go through waves of emotion.
Through grief, Preston Lord's family keeps fighting, coming back to court Thursday. The suspects out of custody also walking in.
We want to make sure that they know that we are not giving up and this will not be swept under the rug.
East Valley community members also there in orange, giving the Lord family support as they have for months.
That the community has their back and has Preston's back as well.
Counsel, if you would announce.
Inside court, the immense amount of evidence that might be used at trial brought up again, everything from hours of videos to thousands of pages of documents.
There is still disclosure that's coming in that we have identified over 400 witnesses. Perhaps not all of them need to be interviewed, but a good majority.
The attorney for Trust and Billy also telling the judge there's some growing concerns about having a fair trial here in Maricopa County. The attorneys for Talon Renner, Jacob Meissner, and Dominic Turner also saying they have or intend to file motions to modify their clients' release conditions. 2 suspects in the last month have had their bond amounts reduced. Anything you want to say on that?
No, thank you.
But Renner's attorney wouldn't comment on that after court.
You know, the original judge set the bond at a certain dollar amount, and we just feel that it should not be reduced. The attack on Preston was a deliberate attack. It wasn't just a couple kids throwing punches.
Preston's stepmom speaking with me after, describing the nightmare their family is going through.
To be perfectly honest, the community is prayers and support for us is what has kept us moving. Sometimes the waves are bigger than other days. Getting up out of bed every day and doing what Preston would have wanted us to do, to live like Preston, is our driving force.
Hugs exchanged outside of court, marking the end of just one day in a much longer fight.
The Lord family will continue to show up to represent Preston and fight for his rights and make sure that justice is served.
For now, the trial is slated for next July. All 7 suspects have pleaded not guilty. In Phoenix, Ashley Holden, ABC 15, Arizona.
Absolutely heart-wrenching case. There's Preston Lord. He was only 16, beaten to death at a Halloween party. We will continue to track this in the case against the 7 young suspects. Wow. Breaks your heart. All right, before we go here right now, I want to put on the screen a missing child. Caden Ross Houston is his name. He's only 15 years old. If you see Caden, pick up the phone, make the call. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Louisville Metro Police Department. That phone number's on your screen. Look at his picture. You see him, make the call, make a difference. Let's see if we can get Caden to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. Vinnie Politan Investigates is up next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.